E-invoicing, in what background we all have started. Initially, e-invoicing was supposed to be, and as a trial, it was given on January 1, 2020. It was stated that this is going to be for registered person having aggregate turnover more than 100 crore. And date of implementation initially planned April 1, 2020. But we all know due to COVID-19, infrastructure was not ready and things were not in proper shape. It got postponed to October 1, 2020. And then it was revised that it is applicable only for such registered person who are having aggregate turnover more than 500 crore rupees. Very first month, relaxation was given for 1 month, that in case such registered person could not generate e-invoice, they would be allowed waiver of penalty, and then they can generate IRN number, invoice reference number, within 30 days from the generation of invoice. This was 1 month relaxation from October 1, 2020. Now the announcement coming in that this e-invoicing going to be compulsory for all such registered person whose aggregate turnover is more than 100 crore rupees. And then Finance Secretary has said that they are going to make it compulsory for all from April 1, 2021. So we must know what is this e-invoicing system, what are the do's and don'ts, what preparation, handholding required for the trade industry and commerce to be ready for this generation of e-invoicing. In a background, there was another provision, QR code. This dynamic QR code, initially it was planned for registered person having aggregate turnover of 500 crore or more for B2C supplies, registered to unregistered, from April 1, 2020. Got postponed to October 1, 2020, then December 1, 2020, and now it is postponed to April 2021. And there's a waiver of penalty under section 125. Those who are not following this QR code scheme for B2C supply having aggregate turnover of more than 500 crore. Effectively, this is going to be applicable from April 2021. So this was the background. Next question, which is very important, and we must know why this e-invoicing. What is the reason behind that? There are two parties. One is the government and one is the taxpayer. For government, I'm giving the data that last 3 years since introduction of GST, government has lost 1,20,000 crore rupees only on fake invoices. These are the estimated numbers which is coming out. Because of fake invoice, we know that a lot of tax evaders are availing ineligible credit, and government has lost this particular amount. In a given situation, as a deterrent measure, government has introduced e-invoicing system. It is good. It is good for the taxpayer as well. For the region, this taxpayer, once into e-invoicing system, his outward supply gets auto-populated in GSTR1, auto-populated, and then in GSTR3B for payment of tax, and corresponding credit will come on real-time basis in transparent manner in the books of recipient. The only concern whether this system which require integration, proper implementation, we are going to discuss today. But otherwise, this e-invoicing system going to help automized electronic return filing, and it will ease the business which we all are looking into. Our finance secretary has said that this e-invoicing going to be compulsory for all the suppliers effective from April 2021. So this webinar is very, very important. And you must take down those pointers which is important for you to know for your preparation, handholding, what all things you need to do at your end so that you can implement e-invoicing system. So I'm starting some of the broad point We'll touch base the challenge at the end of my theme presentation. Then we are having all technical speakers. They would be talking on technical point, and we would be discussing the concern of trade and industry for this e-invoicing system. My first pointer, who to generate e-invoicing? First point, any registered person whose aggregate turnover is more than 500 crore got implemented from October 1, 2020. But now from January 1, 2021, whose aggregate turnover is more than 100 crore. In any financial year, starting from 2017-18. So criteria is, if your aggregate turnover crosses 100 crore in any of the financial year, starting from 17-18, then this provision is applicable to you. First, what is the meaning of aggregate turnover? Very important. I am having 3 manufacturing units in 3 different states. Aggregate turnover under section 2 subsection 6 of CGST Act to be calculated on pan-India basis, sum total of turnover of all 3 manufacturing unit, aggregate turnover, which includes your intrastate and interstate supply, which includes export, which includes even exempted supplies. Exempted supplies may be on account of your goods and services are exempted by way of exemption notification. Either it is nil rated or it is not taxable to GST. These need to be included. You need to include your taxable supplies. You need to include your export supplies. You need to include your exempt supplies, that to pan-India basis. Sum total of all the unit. In example I have taken, it is 3 unit. There may be 7 unit in 7 different states. Sum total of total turnover under one same PAN number. That is the way aggregate turnover to be calculated. Second point, for the QR code. For QR code, it is being stated, any registered person whose aggregate turnover is more than 500 crore for B2C supplies, registered to unregistered. QR code going to be compulsory. It was supposed to be from December 1, 2020, but now from April 1, 2021. And penalty is being waived under section 125. So who to generate, it's clear. Any financial year starting from 17-18, and aggregate turnover includes taxable, export, and exempted. Going further, next question. Who all are exempted? They are not required to follow this e-invoicing. Who all are exempted? There are 5 entities, specific 5 entities are exempted. SEZ unit, but not SEZ developer. Goods transport agency, who is engaged in transportation of goods by road. Insurance, banking, NBFC, exempted. Passenger transportation services, exempted. And last, multiplexes, cinema admission. In 5 specific cases, these are made exempted. No generation of e-invoicing would be required. Coming to the next point. What all document which require compulsory generation of e-invoice? It is for B2B transaction, registered supplier to registered recipient. For taxable supplies, for invoice, debit note, and credit note. Compulsory along with export invoices. So this is applicable for tax invoice, debit note, credit note, and export invoice. And where it is not applicable, in which cases it is not applicable? First, A receipt voucher. We know receipt voucher is being issued when we receive advance. Refund voucher, when we refund back the money because we have not supplied goods or services. Payment voucher, in case of RCM, when we make the payment voucher is being issued, not required. Self-invoice generated by the recipient for RCM liability under section 31, subsection 3, clause F of CGST Act, not required. Importantly, it is not applicable for exempted supplies, bill of supply. For exempted supplies, we normally issue bill of supply, not applicable. And last, ISD invoice, input service distributor invoice, it is not required. So these are not applicable category for generation of e-invoice. Now coming to a point, certain myth in the market. What is the myth? In the name of generation of e-invoice, it is being stated that we need to generate e-invoice from common GST common portal. It's a complete myth. No need of generation of e-invoice from GST common portal. I will tell you the process. I will tell you what is the meaning of e-invoice, which we are going to discuss today. But this is a myth that it is going to be generated from GST common portal. Second, it is being stated in the market that this will have one new format. Invoice is going to have new format. Nothing like that. And it is being stated it is only for invoice, not for debit note and credit note. I said it is applicable for even debit note and credit note pertaining to B2B taxable supplies. So this is the myth which is going away. Then question comes, what is e-invoice? How to be generated? What is the process? I'm not going to discuss detailed one, but I'm giving you a glimpses, a flavor. As on date, we normally generate invoice from our own accounting, billing, or ERP software. That's what normally we are doing. It will continue like this. What is the change coming out? Furnishing of specified particulars in a standard format as per e-schema for invoice, which is in form GST INB01. So specified particulars as per e-schema invoice GST INB01 need to be generated from your own accounting, billing, or ERP software. No change. It should be as per e-schema. That should be converted into JSON file. And this JSON file then need to be pushed or transmitted to dedicated invoice registration portal, which is as on date www.einvoice1.gst.gov.in. So JSON file of that specified format of invoice push to the IRP. What IRP, this dedicated IRP, going to do? Validate the data as furnished. Do deduplication check. Digitally sign this invoice. Create unique invoice reference number, which is 64-digit hash alphanumeric number. And then with QR code. IRP is a push-through system, will validate the particulars, digitally sign, give unique invoice reference number with QR code, and give it back to the supplier in JSON. So supplier getting it back from IRP in JSON, then this supplier can convert this JSON file either into PDF or normal format and provide it back to the recipient buyer of goods or services for availing credit. The additional activity which is being envisaged, this IRP going to push the data once validate, digitally sign, create IRN with QR code, it is going to push the data to two different portals. One is the GST portal, and by pushing the data, the outward supply of the supplier gets auto-populated in GSTR1 and corresponding liability in GSTR3B. But at the moment, this activity is not happening. For the month of October and November, for such registered person whose aggregate turnover is more than 500 crore, they started doing generation of e-invoice, but it is not getting auto-populated in GSTR1. GSTN has issued clarification in this regard. They are working on same. So they are taking their own time, and they have asked the concerned supplier that even though it's getting auto-populated, is the responsibility of supplier to cross-check outward supply particulars with specific unique IRN generated. So at the moment, it is not working. Second, when this IRP doing all this activity, validation, creation of IRN number, this is going to then auto-populate the data for recipient buyer of goods or services in GSTR2A for availing credit on real-time basis. But this integration and this process is yet to come. It is not being done as on date. Second, this IRP going to push the data to eBay bill portal for such supplier for generation of eBay bill. If part A and part B of eBay bill particulars are being filled up, duly validated, it will transmit to eBay bill portal for generation of eBay bill. Such integration yet to be done. It is in the process and going to happen. This is what the overall process which we are referring to. So this e-invoice is nothing but in standardized format. As per e-schema, as I said, of invoice in GST INB01, converted into JSON file and from your own accounting, billing and ERP software. Then it is being transmitted to IRP for doing the validation, creating IRN digitally signed with the QR code. So this is the process. Now way forward, QR code. We all know, we have discussed that QR code going to be applicable only for such registered person who are doing B2C supply, registered to unregistered. And this QR code would be having 8 specific field and particulars: GST number of supplier, recipient, invoice number of the supplier, which is different from IRN number, date of generation of invoice, invoice value with the tax amount and taxable value, line item, 1000 line items are being permitted to be included in one invoice, and HSN of main line item having highest taxable value and the unique IRN number. So being recipient, if you're getting invoice with QR code, it can be scanned through mobile app and you can check whether this is valid invoice or not for availing credit. One important information: for QR code, it should not be routed through IRP, invoice registration portal. This QR can be generated by your own accounting, billing or ERP software. So distinction: e-invoice always going through IRP, but QR code from your own accounting, billing or ERP software. Having said all this thing, now coming to the last part, which is important for us to understand: challenges. We are going to discuss today. We got learned speaker. They are going to touch base those point challenges and what is the way forward, what can be done. First challenge: what happens if I want to cancel the invoice? Provision says cancellation can happen on IRP within 24 hours, 24 hours, except if eBay bill got generated and goods are in transit, then you can't cancel it. Partial cancellation not permissible. It should be fully cancelled, and that too within 24 hours. Once data has been moved from IRP to GST common portal, you can do amendment, whatever you want to do, like normally we are doing today. So amendment is not possible on a IRP, invoice registration portal. Amendment is possible only on GST common portal. And partial cancellation not possible. So this is what you have to keep to your mind for the amendment and cancellation. Once e-invoice got cancelled, that IRN cannot be used. So these are the caution and measure built in IRP and then pushing the data to GST common portal. Second challenge, being supplier. Now, if your aggregate turnover is more than 100 crore and applicable from January 1, 2021, what are the check? For you now, you have to see 3 portals. One portal for generation of e-invoice, one is the GST common portal, and one is the eBay bill portal. For the moment, you need to really keep track on 3 portals till the time it is integrated. And the way we have envisaged the activity is being coming and introduced. At the moment, for a supplier, it's a challenge to have watch, do the needful activities on 3 portals. Third item, reconciliation for the supplier need to be. He may be into B2B supply and B2C supplies. B2B only taxable supplies, you need to have e-invoice and unique IRN number. What about B2C? You need not require it. So you need to have reconciliation done and preparation of GSTR1, because now the data is not getting auto-populated and it will take time. They have said T+2 months, they will pick up from December onwards. We have to check and watch, and even they have clarified whatever data getting auto-populated in GSTR1 should not be considered authentic. You need to verify and check. So maybe for the time being, we have to cross-check the data, and then once e-invoice generated with unique IRN number, reconciliation with generation of eBay bill. And we have B2C supplies, again reconciliation with eBay bill. This subjectivity still exists and challenge for all of us. Item number 4, for recipient, we all are talking about supplier, registered supplier having aggregate turnover more than 100 crore. Is there any responsibility on recipient? Our President Sanjay ji was saying this point. What are the caution need to be done by the recipient at recipient end? Let's say I'm a recipient and my aggregate turnover is less than 100 crore. I'm not generating any e-invoice, no unique IRN number. But if I'm getting invoice from 2 different suppliers, the one vendor whose aggregate turnover more than 100 crore, he generating e-invoice with unique IRN number, another vendor less than 100 crore generating invoice with no IRN number. You have to have a cross check. Why cross check? The provision rule 48 sub rule 4 of CGST rule saying recipient getting invoice from the vendor supplier who need to compulsory generate e-invoice with unique IRN number. If he's not generating, then that invoice will not be valid invoice. So such supplier who are supposed to generate e-invoice with valid IRN number, that is valid invoice for availing credit. So recipient is having responsibility to have a cross check. Who all are supplier compulsorily need to generate e-invoice and who all can raise normal tax invoice. this reconciliation for the time being need to be done by the recipient. Coming to the fifth, forward charge method versus reverse charge method. I said this generation of e-invoice is applicable for supplier. What about the recipient? Sometime, section 9 subsection 3 specified goods and services falling under reverse charge, where recipient generate the self-invoice. Under section 31 subsection 3 clause F of CGST Act, and that is going to be valid document for availing credit in terms of Rule 36 sub Rule 1 clause B, where the recipient is supposed to go and registered on IRP. No, it is supplier continue to be. Supplier will do. Supplier is supposed to get registered. And how you're going to check everything? On this portal, einvoice1.gst.gov.in. You can insert, you can check the enable part, whether this vendor or this recipient. You can always check putting your GST number and check whether you are liable for generation of e-invoice. That is there. This facility is available. And you may have received the email from the department wherein it is being stated that you are the registered person who need to generate e-invoice. Let's say if you are not liable, you need to go back and tell them, sir, I'm not liable. I need not require to go. But in case you're liable and you haven't got the email, get yourself registered on that dedicated IRP. At the same time, my humble submission, and which I'm representing to the government as well, today we are going to compile all the suggestions. All the participants are free to put their comment. We will compile those suggestions and give to the concerned authority for the correction. I'm being told that the trial version, those who are supposed to generate e-invoice from 1st January, the trial version, bulk versus individual, there's a sandbox, there's the offline trial version available. We have to see such transaction, how this generation can be done. What we are expecting from the government, they must come out with a trial, and with this trial we can learn and understand the process of generation of e-invoice. Maybe you are having challenge pertaining to that one as well. Coming to the next point, which is being highlighted by our President PSG Chamber. What happened if system is down, power cut is there, it is not working, and there's compulsory generation of e-invoice? How to be dealt with? There's nothing as such as on date. We are talking about metropolitan cities, but what happened remote location when there is a power cut or system is down? And then integration of 3 portal which we are talking about, and the workability. We have seen the voluminous data as because e-invoice is being expected on real-time basis, transparent to the supplier and recipient. If that system is not strengthened, not integrated properly, then the requisite, the way forward outcome which we have thought of may not be possible, So maybe we have to walk the talk. Our Honorable Finance Secretary has said it is going to be applicable for all the supplier from April 1, 2021. Before that, we have to see preparedness. To what extent trade is ready? Of course, this e-invoice is a very good on real-time basis in transparent manner. It is showing the transaction. It is working as a deterrent for tax evaders. And need to be. PSD is vocal about it that we want to reward the honest taxpayer. What we all are looking for, simplicity, ease of business, automation, provided infrastructure ready, that support system is ready, that readiness government is supporting to all of us together to see this success of this e-invoicing, which is now for registered person whose aggregate turnover is more than